here for another video. Today's topic is, do we try again? So this is really a controversial topic. I say that because there's so many different suggestions about when you should start again, get back into it, try for another baby. So typically, I know you guys have probably heard this, that after you have a baby, it's suggested that you wait 6 weeks. But that can be different if you have been growing a baby in your body and then you lose the baby. And oftentimes, professionals will also say that you should wait about a year after you have the baby to, try again. And, if you get pregnant again, it should be after a year. This is really because your body has to adjust to all the changes it's been through. You've been carrying a baby for so many months, and then after you have a baby, it's like you're not carrying a baby anymore, but your body has been through a lot. So you just have to allow your body to get back and snap back. And it's kind of crazy because for me, I can understand a professional saying a year, because for me, I felt like myself about, after a year. And it was just like, I woke up one day and I was like, wow, I really feel like normal again. Like, I really feel like myself. So, I know you had your baby. Did you have that feeling?
Well, for me it was different because I didn't know I was pregnant, so I didn't go through a lot of the hormonal changes until after. So for me, the first 3 months was extremely rough because my hormones was like way out of whack.
Right.
And then I don't know if I ever felt normal again.
Really?
For real. Because just being a mom, it just changes you altogether.
Yeah, that's true.
But I do know, under WebMD, it says that exactly how long a woman should wait to conceive after a miscarriage is controversial. Some doctors suggest trying again as soon as possible, but others will suggest, and under the guidelines of the World Health Organization, WHO, they call for waiting for 6 months to at least 18 months. Okay. After loss. So it really all depends. I know after both my losses, the doctor was like, well, everything's okay. And a lot of times I believe that it's individualized as well, because it also depends on how far along you are in your loss. It depends on how much
circumstances of the
loss. Like how much comes out at one time. And we all do know that sometimes if it's early enough, you have a lot of clots and cells and build up as well. Some people say wait till after your first period, just to make sure that you know that things have cleared out at least a little bit. I always say wait until you feel okay, because the one thing that I know, it's the emotional toll of do you try again sometimes can be like the worst of it all. And so sitting and thinking about, okay, well, I've lost. I know the biggest thing for me is like, oh my God, I don't want to lose again.
Right.
Especially after you've had two back to back.
Right.
It's definitely that fear factor. But at the same time, we don't live in fear. So, we just got to keep progressing. And when your body will also tell you. When you're semi-okay to go ahead. So, how about you?
I think the period would be like my rule of thumb. I think after my first loss, I had my period, I think it was like 5 weeks after. And I was, of course, told by the doctors to wait at least 6 weeks. But having that period, of course, it was emotional. I felt like I shouldn't have obviously had a period because I should have still been pregnant. But I guess the period gave me some sense of normalcy, like, okay, I'm back to my regular cycle, so now my body is telling me that it's okay, because I guess the lining is doing this thing, so I guess that's what, I think we waited 6-8 weeks, but then we also had to deal with, I don't know, like the first time trying again, or even, not even even trying it and just the first time having sex after a loss,
Right.
and how emotional that can be.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I do know that after a loss, if you try too hard, it can be even more stressful. So, like, if you focus more on, I'm trying again rather than, okay, let's just have fun. And I know for me, I use an app. I think most women nowadays use an app to track their period. So I know for me, I use My Days, and I use the Fitbit tracker. And I just recently realized that your Fitbit can track a lot of different things when it comes to the womanly section. So I know those are the two that I use, and they have been very accurate for me. And they allow you to track several different things. So like heavy, like for the My Days, it mostly tracks my period, my ovulation. You can also track like your temperatures and things like that in there. But for the Fitbit, what I like about it is that you can track like how heavy your flow is, how light, you know, your pain levels, like all of those things. So I know that's what I use. What do you use?
I used First Response. I also think I used Always or Tampax, but I relied on First Response. I found them to be the most accurate and the most, I guess, user friendly. So that's how I track my period and ovulation. What about you?
I use Clue. I used something else before I went to Clue, but I can't remember the name of it. It might have been My Days, but I can't remember. But I like Clue because it just like the Fitbit and My Days, it tracks a lot of different things. Like it'll track your stress level. Like, are you happy today? Are you sad today? Are you motivated today? Are you unmotivated today? It'll track your mucus level, you know, because women, we have our periods, but also we have most women have discharge.
Right.
So it'll track that as well, like what color is the discharge? Are you cramping today? Are you not cramping? So it also tracks your temperature, your weight, things like that. So when you go to your practitioner, all you have to do is you can send it to them via email or something like that, or you can actually show them and say, this is what I've been experiencing, so that they can actually look at this history and say, okay, do we see a pattern, and how does this help you, or, you know, does this give me any sort of information to better assist you? So I really like Clue. It's very helpful.
Cool. So another thing that I've heard about, I've never taken birth control. Like, that was one thing, thankfully, never needed that. But I know a lot of people take birth control for several different reasons. And so, like, I have several cousins who have taken birth control and then stopped birth control, and it was difficult for them to get pregnant. Then I have others that got pregnant on birth control. Like, I know my mom got pregnant with me while she was on Depakote, like, faithfully on Depakote.
Really?
Yes, it's like faithfully.
Wow.
And I have a few cousins that also got pregnant on Depo as well.
Yeah.
So I think,
amazing.
right, like, so I know, like, the biggest question is when to stop taking birth control to get pregnant.
Well, okay. I actually have taken Depo. Actually, okay, so after I had the twins, I took Depo because I wasn't ready for no baby. And then my husband, he kept talking about a baby and when are we gonna try again? When are we gonna have more kids? And, you know, blah blah blah. And so with Depo, it comes in, I don't know what they call it, 4 cycles or 4 packages, but basically you take 4 of them, and I think each one covers about 2 to 3 months. And so I know if you go the full 4, it may take about a year to 18 months to actually be able to conceive. So for me, I only took 3 rounds because I knew I didn't want to wait that long to get pregnant. So I only took 3. And I believe I stopped in October, November. And then I got pregnant with Amira, and it was quick.
Yeah.
It was really quick. Right after I finished my, I did my depo, that I got pregnant with her. So I think you just kind of have to figure out what you want, like what's best for you, and communicate with your partner. Have that conversation, like, when do you think we should try? Don't put a lot of pressure on it. I think that's one of the issues that women have, is when you put too much pressure on yourselves to make it happen, and oh, we have to meet this deadline, then it takes the fun out of it. It takes the carefreeness out of it. Like, live your life. You know, don't put all this pressure on that you have to have this baby at this. Like, some people, I know you've said it several times. Oh, I don't want this type of baby that's born in this month or this season.
I get that. I do
carefree.
get that, because a lot of times, like, I know for us, there's a lot of birthdays at the beginning of the year and then a chunk at the end of the year. So I always wanted a summer baby, just because, one, I really don't feel like being pregnant through the middle of the summer. I'm sorry.
But
like,
if it happens,
if it happens, it happens. Like, I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, well, no, I'm getting rid of this one because it's not going to be. No, I'm not going to do that. But the preference, and I know everybody has a preference. I know one of the biggest things that at our place of employment, there's always somebody pregnant at our job. Always. And so I know, like, the biggest thing after my loss, the hardest thing was to hear people kind of dislike what they were having.
Oh,
you know.
I know what you're saying. I don't think I witnessed those conversations, but I can understand kind of wanting one thing but getting another. I mean, I don't know. As long as they're healthy and safe, that's really all I would care about. But people do have preferences, because, you know, you kind of build up, even as a child, you kind of build up your mind and your life. You build up your life and your mind as, you know, I want a daughter or I want a son. And then when things don't go your way, that can kind of throw you off. But I get how disheartening that can be for someone who did have a loss.
Yeah, I think you have to think about your life, and, you know, with us being very spiritual, we think about things in a different way. Because I know for me and my husband, when we were getting ready to have our babies, we wanted girls, but we ended up having twin boys. And then I was like, whew, child, this would have been rough, because we had Amira, and I have Amira now, and I'm like, I appreciate a girl, so I'm like, man, if I would have had the twin boys and then Amira, and if Amira was a boy, it was just all boys, would I have been able to handle all of that by myself? So I appreciate, like, in hindsight, I appreciate my girl. And I feel like, you know, God will give you what you need. You know, not necessarily what you want all the time, but He will definitely give you what you need.
Definitely.
So I definitely see that when I have a mirror, and I'm like, oh my gosh, life could have been completely different. So yeah.
Most definitely. And at the end of the day, when it comes to do we try again, I think the most important thing is discussing it, having a conversation with your partner, because a lot of times things get lost in translation. You know, having sex and wanting to have a baby are two different things.
They are.
Because
they are.
The biggest thing is that, okay, I feel comfortable enough with you now just to have sex, which is a big thing, because it's the product that leads to pregnancy. And so just focusing on getting back into, not a routine but getting back to you, because there's no such thing as normal, but getting back to you and the things that you enjoy and the things that you like to do. So you guys, we want to hear from you. Let us know how far you were, if you chose to try again, how long it took you. Tell us your stories. We want to hear them. Leave them down in the comments below.
And also, check out our part 2, which is intimacy after loss.
See you guys later.
Bye. Bye. Hey guys! Thanks for watching our video.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Follow us on all our social media. The links are down below in the description box.